Welcome to the Know Your Legacy podcast. I'm your host, Vipul Basania, and today's guest is Anthony Middleton. Anthony is the man behind the blog Man v Clock. He's also a world traveler. Back in 2011, he made the plunge to actually decide to pursue a life of freedom and full-on experience compared to the life that he was living then. Since then, he's gone on to do multiple things, such as swimming with whale sharks, volcano boarding, whatever that is, in Nicaragua, and also doing some crazy stuff like living with tribes as well in the outskirts of Papa New Gineau. So I want to get into all of that sort of stuff. So Anthony, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me, people. Thank you very much.
No problem. So one thing I found when I was sort of reading a little bit about your story and the about section was you made the decision to take quite a big risk back in 2011. So what was going through your mind at that time for you to actually make that sort of a decision?
I guess I was at a point in life where a lot of people find themselves where you don't really have a plan or any kind of path, and you're just plodding along, and it's the same old. And I just wasn't very happy about that, and I didn't feel like I was living up to my potential. And my close group of friends stopped hanging about with each other and started growing in different areas in life. And I guess I had a bit of an identity crisis as well. I was just I didn't want to just work all the time and just live for the weekends and get drunk. I was kind of over that, so I was looking into something more. I was always searching for something more,
Yeah,
sorry.
No, please go ahead.
I'm just saying that I was reading a lot of travel blogs because I hadn't traveled at all. I hadn't traveled at all, and I was reading a lot of travel blogs, and a lot of these people were my age, and I was thinking, how do I do that? It got me a little bit hungry, so I started looking into that.
Yeah, so I think that's the distinction, though, isn't it? Because everyone tends to feel that way after a certain period of time. They're like, I want to do that because they see a movie or they hear a story about someone, or they read a blog like you did. But then the difference is actually doing something about that. Like you actually did the research, or you actually took the action to make that come to life for yourself. So what were the steps from that point, and how old were you at that time as well?
I just think I was ready to take a risk on myself. I talked the talk quite a lot and said that I was going to do this, I was going to do that, and we're all guilty of that sometimes. I still am myself. But I was 27 when I decided I've got to shake things up. Things aren't making me happy. Things aren't how this is not how I want my life to be. So I was 27 years old, and I was reading into all of this, all these people who were traveling, not just travel bloggers, but people who were working from the laptop and traveling. So a bit of a slower pace. So that screamed freedom to me. If you can make money from your laptop, that opens up so many doors in terms of freedom, and opens up the doors for so many opportunities. So I'm quite a proud man. I'm a very proud man. Underestimate, and I set up a blog called Man vs Clock, and I said within 1 year I'm going to pay off my debts, because I had accumulated quite a lot of debts financially, and that I was going to leave on a one-way ticket and just find a way to make money online. I wasn't sure how, but that's what I was going to do. And it was very intense because it was a digital clock, and it started on 365 days all the way down to zero. So every day it was getting closer to zero. And obviously I'm meeting people in the street, and this, are you really going to do that? I'm like, yeah, I'm out of here. I'm going to do it. So making it public like that gave me the kick to just go and burn the bridges, so to speak, and say, right, I'm out of here now. I have to make it happen.
And the interesting thing about that is you made your goal public without knowing if you would actually reach it or not. So what gave you the faith to make it a 1 year time frame?
I still suffer overconfidence quite a lot. It was an overconfidence thing, I think. I just like I said, I'd spoken many times about getting away or doing this, doing that, but I just thought if I made it public like that, I know me, if I put my mind to something and really commit to it, I will do it. I'm quite stubborn like that. So I knew that if I made it public like that, before the clock hit zero, no matter what my situation is, I'm just going to be on the plane and out of here. And that's what I ended up doing. I thought I would have £10,000. That was the utopic plan, to leave with 10,000. I actually only had £1,000. Um, I actually have 1,650, but David Hay, he's a boxer, for those who don't know, was fighting Klitschko, and he was the underdog, and I put £650 on him. Not my best move, not my best financial move, and he didn't win that, so I was down to £1,000.
Yeah, no, that's quite funny actually, because I still remember that fight back in the
Yeah.
day. So yeah, but so you left with £1,000 essentially from that point. Did you how far was your blog set up by then? Like, was it fully fledged, or were you still in the process of making it happen?
Um, I was writing a lot more then than I am now, because I'm doing a lot more traveling now, and then I catch up. So when I have moments like this, I catch up. But I hadn't made more than $100 in advertising on the website before I left, and I was also, at the same time, I was trying to juggle a football blog for Newcastle United, and I was trying to still advertise on that, but that wasn't very sustainable, trying to do trying to juggle two blogs at once. So yeah, I'd never made more than $100 in a month, from my blog, and advertisers weren't particularly banging down my door to give me money. So it was still at the infant stage, to be honest.
Wow, that's impressive in terms of courage, because at that stage you want, that wasn't definitely an income that you could sustain yourself with around the world, but you still made the choice to take that plunge. So where was the first place you went? I think, if I remember correctly, it was it Philippines?
No, mate, it was Malaysia. Malaysia.
Malaysia. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Malaysia. Yeah. So you went to Chiang Mai, was it?
So I went to Malaysia, and I do like a drink, and I partied a little bit, and I was like, what am I doing? I could party anywhere in the world, and I only have £1,000, and just because the drink is cheap, it doesn't mean I should spend it all on drink. What am I doing? I'm throwing away I built up the anticipation of a year of leaving, and am I going to be known as the lad who came back because he spent it all on partying on a beach, making vacuous friendships with people? And I was like, no, I can't be doing this. So I looked into cheap places in that Southeast Asia area to live, and everyone was talking about Chiang Mai. It was collectively, everyone was saying Chiang Mai was a place to be. So I immediately booked a ticket to Chiang Mai, which is in the north of Thailand. And I said that I wasn't going to drink for a year, which I did. I didn't drink for a year, and I just threw myself into work. All I did was work for that year, just constant work, constant slog.
And that was building up your blog. So you're doing various articles for your particular blog. And I believe as well, I think around that time you had a lot of clients you'd taken on as well.
It's strange, people, because Man versus Clock was never going to be it never planned to be the thing that made me money. That was a documentation of how I was looking to make money online. So I was subsidizing, like, advertisers started coming in at this point, but nothing crazy, about $150, $200 a month. And I was subsidizing that with writing 500-word articles for $10. Now, that's not a lot of money, but obviously if you're living in somewhere like Chiang Mai, Thailand, that's almost like having $25 per 500 words. And as that happened, I don't know if you read on my blog, a lump started forming in my mouth. I'd never had a problem with my mouth, and So I went backwards and forwards to the hospital. It turned out it was a tumor, like the good kind of tumor, like a non-cancerous tumor, but it was still problematic and it was in my mouth. And my travel insurance only paid for half of the operation. So I had to find just under $1,000 from nowhere, which is not what I needed at the time. It's really bad timing. So I took my attention away from writing these articles, which were keeping me going, just about to pay the rent, get a bit of food in Chiang Mai. And I, instead of waiting for advertisers to come to me, I went to them, and I went online and I found these companies. Why are they giving me money? What are they trying to do? Located them from every town, every city in the United Kingdom, A to Z, and I contacted them by myself. I contacted them individually, and that month, after not making more than $200 in 1 month, I made $5,000 that month. I was like, this is absolutely crazy. That was enough to live in Chiang Mai for half a year and pay off my operation on my lip. So I figured from that moment that travel was the way to take my blog, because I enjoy travel. I had only just dipped my feet in the water, so to speak, but that's obviously where the money was, in advertising with travel. So my blog still has a personal development theme, but it went into, I took it more into travel, because that's where the money was.
And the companies that you reached out to, was it a specific type of niche? Like who were you targeting in that time?
I just Googled SEO companies, and anything very similar to that. SEO search engine optimization companies in the United Kingdom, and I just stalked them until they either give me money or told me to go away.
Yeah, so it's a game of persistence, and the thing is, the amazing part about this is you didn't even know that is what you had to do when you got up there. Like it's a part of the story, or it's a door that opened up only once you got there. So like that amount of money never would have been accessible to you, at least in your situation, had you not had the balls initially to actually make the plunge to go there. So
that's right.
It's crazy, because most people would probably stop at the first hurdle, which is, you making $100 and that not being enough for you to fly out, because people would think, well, maybe I need some more. Maybe I should wait a few more months. Actually, let's stretch it out a bit longer. Let me figure out what else I'm missing. And then they start to overthink things. And I know I've been guilty of that. So, I mean, after your lip, you had this whole list of clients you were working with on a monthly basis. And then I think I remember reading, it got to a point where you're working so hard, you forgot the reason you started in the first place, which was to enjoy travel.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that part.
I created my own prison, really. I got out because I was never. I do have a confession to make. I do think it's easier for someone like myself to leave my town forever, because I didn't really love my area and I didn't have a career. So it's a lot harder for someone who's actually got a career locked in to do what I've done. To do what I've done, compared to someone who, really likes the job and they're not sure what to do. I never really. I went from one job to another job, and I was just treading water. But I didn't like that life. And I didn't like having the freedom. I'm not the kind of person that should have a boss. I'm quite hard to try to find the best words to articulate that. I mean, I don't resent authority like I used to as a teenager, but I don't like, as an adult, being told, what to do. So it was easier for me to leave in that respect. And so when I had this newfound freedom, to come back to your question, when I had this newfound freedom, I was like, I need to go where the money is. I need to strike while the iron's hot, and any other kind of cliche similar to that. And I locked myself away in this room because I was so scared of losing it. I was so scared of losing what I built up. That's what the fire came from, which isn't the best and it's not sustainable. And I'd made some friends and they were saying, don't you think you should go out more and spend spend some time traveling and treat yourself. And to be honest, I was a little bit defensive. I was like, "Oh, you don't get it," kind of thing. Looking back, they were kind of right, but I mean, I did. The party wasn't over. I did need to knuckle down, but at the same time, yeah, I didn't need to work as much as I did.
Yeah, I think it becomes easy to forget that when you get so immersed into, making sure that you've got enough money, because then it becomes a form of survival. But and because you start off with that mindset, you forget that mindset carries on with you unless you make that conscious change to think, okay, I've actually crossed that barrier now. Like, I don't need to be doing the same actions. I can still work hard, but there's a different way to do it because I've reached that first level. If you see what I mean, you're not
exactly. Right.
you're not trying to work towards survival anymore. You've got there. But now you need to change your strategy. Otherwise, you'll always be in survival mode, and that wasn't the point of your journey. So what's the job that you were doing at the start? So like a couple of the things that you were doing up until sort of 27, just to dip back into a bit of your history, because there are probably people out there that are listening are doing, some people have odd jobs, some people have careers, whatever it might be. They're all still trying to create a life that's actually filled with meaning. So I want them to know where you've sort of come from.
So the particular job that I had before I left to do the Man vs. Squad thing, I was a care worker for a lad with spinal injuries. He was paralyzed, so I was taking care of him, and I was in that job for 3 years. I think that was the longest job I've ever had, actually, 3 years.
Okay, yeah. And then, like, prior to that, you were at school or university or something along those lines?
I've had something like 20 jobs. Seriously, I've
wow,
had
seriously?
Yeah. I've always had a good work ethic. I had a paper round when I was at school, so I used to get up really early, have a paper round, spent all of that on football stickers, as you do. So I'm not the best with my purchases sometimes, as you can tell from my gambling choices and investments as a young person. I've been a postman. I've worked in many factories, many warehouses, sales assistant. It's so hard to name them all because there's been that many.
Yeah. So the reason I wanted you to state all that is because I think it just highlights to people who are listening, you don't actually need to have like a fully fledged education or like a whole list of mentors or 20 years of industry experience. Like, you just need to find the information online and then follow that feeling inside, whatever you might want to call it, intuition or bliss or whatever it might be. And the reason I bring that up is because I was listening to, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Joseph Campbell's work. He talks about the hero's journey, which is essentially what you were doing, which was finding the thing that would allow your life to feel like you've got more meaning and purpose to it. And it all comes from having that feeling of, I need something more. It starts there. But then you actually once you take the action and take the leap of faith, like you did to move abroad after a year, that's when the real doors start opening up and your life becomes a lot more exciting. But it's getting to that point that's a lot tougher for people. And the point is, you don't need to come from an extensive background of experience. Like you obviously hadn't had a blog or internet business experience prior to that. So
sorry. No, I couldn't agree anymore what you're saying. I was just thinking of a good point. Sorry to interrupt. You'll probably know that United Kingdom's still there's a bit of a classism thing going on. More so than there is in the US. It's more vocal and more obvious when people are a bit snobby amongst the classes. So since I've done well and I've been doing things like, I went to the Galapagos on a cruise and everyone was well-to-do, but they were born well-to-do. They weren't self-made, and that's not a criticism. If that was me, I would also be in the Galapagos. But there's that moment where everyone's talking about what university degree that they have, what they Americans will say major, and I'll say, oh, well, I didn't go to university. And there's like a bit of an awkward silence, So, oh, he slipped through the net. And yeah, so if anyone's listening who feels like you have to be some kind of genius, expert, or you have to have a university degree, or you have to come from a rich background, it's really not the case. I mean, it's easier if you have those things, don't get me wrong, or maybe it's not, because you have more fire in your belly when you don't have that, actually. Maybe it works in your favor.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend about this actually, and I think that is partly true, because if you don't have it, there is something driving you to go and get it, because there is nothing to fall back on. It's either you accept an average regular life like you've got now, which everyone can survive from. I'm sure you could have survived plodding along in that job. There's food, shelter, water, but then
absolutely,
who just wants food, shelter, and water? You want more than that. That's not the point of living here, because we're not just animals, we're humans. So we have the ability to go and experience things further than just a regular animal. So what does your day-to-day life look like now as it stands? I know you're in the UK today, but on a typical basis.
I am very badly organized. That's something that I need to get better at. A typical life. So I guess what I'm doing right now is the exception to the rule, because I'm back in Durham and I'm sort of a passport situation. But at the end of this month, I'm going to be back to what I call normal life. And I get up in the morning wherever I am in the world, and I've recently talked myself into. I used to be dead against it. Fasted workouts. Like I used to, because I'm quite a hungry person. If I miss a meal, I'm not a very nice person to be around. But the science is quite supportive of working out fasted, and I struggle to do anything with weights first thing in the morning. But if I do cardio first thing in the morning, I feel extremely positive for the rest of the day. So as much as I don't want to get out of bed and I don't want to go for a run, I do that because cognitively I think better, I'm more positive, less things annoy me. So after that, I'll go for a big breakfast somewhere, which I'll usually research the night before so I'm not stuck. And then it's just traveling from that day. But I don't like to cram too much into one day. I don't like to do a full day tour. I'd rather do something like a half day tour. I'm not the best sleeper in the world, so I don't want to overstimulate myself too late at night. So yeah, whatever I've researched, whichever city I'm in, I'll go out and I'll go off exploring, and come back on the night time, and I should blog, but I don't always. I'm very easily distracted.
Yeah, I guess it can happen when you've got your mind thinking about different experiences that you've got planned for the rest of the week, or even tomorrow, or just reflecting on the day as well. So you can easily get caught up in that. So, where is it that you're planning to go next?
Next, I'm so excited! I'm going to Rwanda with a friend, and we're going to cross the border to Uganda to see mountain gorillas.
Awesome! No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
My dad was actually born in Uganda, and I haven't been.
Right?
Yeah, I haven't, because he was born in the 60s, and then in the 70s, I think, when the president at the time, Idi Amin, came into power, he basically pushed out. He pushed out all the Asians. So they moved over to Scotland. So my dad actually grew up in Scotland, and then so he was there for about 15 to 20 years, and then came down to London where I was born, and then I was brought up here. So it's interesting because I would love to go back and see it. Have you been there before? Is this your first time?
This will be my final continent, Africa. This will be the first time I've ever been to Africa. So no.
Awesome. Yeah. And do you always go with friends, or do you usually go alone? How does that sort of work when you travel?
I mix it up a bit. I usually go by myself. I generally go by myself because I can't really wait around for anyone who's coming an hour in. Some people say that they would like to, but don't actually come. And I also have a friend who's also a travel blogger. I travel with him quite a lot because he was on a mission to visit every country in the world, which he successfully did. So I went to some countries with him, which I didn't even know existed. And I make friends along the way, and sometimes friends come with me as well. So, for example, I just come off a Baltic state trip, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. That was with my cousins, so that was nice. I experienced that with some family members, but it's usually me by myself. Yeah.
Yeah. How does that, because I know a few people have mentioned that people that I speak to mention that some of them like to travel alone and others prefer to do it in a group or in a sort of organized manner. How how does it feel to travel on your own? I mean, when you're exploring a new city, it must feel somewhat lonely, I imagine, when you start out. So people can, easily get
Yeah.
anxious. How are you able to sort of gel yourself in that new culture so easily?
Um, as much as I don't like to admit it, because I class myself as an independent person, solo travel is not as good as it used to be. At first, it was freeing and independent, and I felt so liberated to just be me, do my own thing. And it does have pros as well. It does have pros over not traveling, traveling with a gang of people or another person. But the older I get, the more I want to share experiences with people. So I would prefer to travel with a person, but not just any person. There's a science to traveling with someone that you have to gel with them.
Yeah, because I was talking to a friend about this, and I was thinking some places are good to go on your own if you have that intention to just
Yeah,
detach yourself. But most of the time, and I think this is proven in science as well through some of the stuff that I was reading and watching, is that as humans, we obviously evolved to be in tribes. So naturally, we want to spend time with people because at the end of the day, if you're living a life that's out of the ordinary, you want to share the experiences with someone. When you have something good happen to you, what's the first thing you want to do? You want to text or call someone and tell them what's happened. Like you want
yeah,
to share that good news with them. So
yeah.
I imagine that spending time with someone whilst traveling, especially if it's like the first time for both of you, it'd be amazing to have someone there with you, whether it's in a group or another person.
Have you seen Into the Wild with Christopher McCandless?
No.
Okay, I won't ruin the ending for you, but there's a quotation in there. Happiness is only real when shared, and I would modify
Mm.
that bit and say happiness is better when shared. I wouldn't say that it's not real. You can definitely have happiness alone. I have happiness traveling by myself for sure, but when you share it with someone and you have that memory that you share, and you talk about, you talk to each other about, and have your personal jokes. It's better. It's definitely better.
Yeah, no, that's a really good quote, especially the change that you make to it that tweak. I completely agree because
Yeah,
you can experience it by yourself, but in the longer term, through certain circumstances, you want to have shared experiences.
but
So
you can't be too needy as well. I feel like a lot of people are needy nowadays. There's a lot of people a bit too needy that need to be a bit more independent. You know?
yeah, yeah, no, you're right. I've seen that as well with people. So you need to just find that right balance for yourself, and then know when to cut away from other people as well. If you have to,
Oh,
you shouldn't
God,
feel
yes.
shouldn't feel bad to want to go off
Oh,
on your own. It sounds like you've
that's
got a
some,
bit of history with that.
that's something I'm constantly thinking about. I I don't like anyone affecting my energy. That doesn't mean that I don't want to hang around with someone who has different political opinions to me or different opinions on things that I have. That's fine. I actually quite enjoy that when it's done in a respectful way. But if someone's just negative, like an anchor, I'm very conscious of that, and I'm always assessing things and having clear outs. You know.
Yeah, I think once in a while we need to reevaluate our lives just to see just to check in and see where am I? Am I where I'm supposed to be? Did I actually plan to be here, or have I ended up somewhere? Without realizing, you wake up one day and a whole year's gone by. Like that's how I feel of how the last year's gone, and you can tend to do small things every day that leads you completely off the path and
Uh-huh.
off the path that you intended to go out on. and you wake up one day and you realize, where am I? Like, I didn't even expect to be. I'm in this unknown land, in this unknown job, around these unknown people. So it's important to just stop and reflect. And on the point of reflection, I wanted to just ask, what's the biggest mindset shift or realization you've had since making the transition from 27 to the life that you've now got? Because you've seen two spectrums.
Oof, that is a question. The biggest mindset. I think, as cheesy as it's going to sound, but I actually believe in it, so I don't mind. Sometimes cheesy cliches actually work. You just got to take a gamble on yourself. You know, we all have those doubts in our mind. We all have those. I can't do it. I still suffer that. You know, can I do this? Can I not do this? And you just gotta get your tunnel vision on. You know, that was my mindset. I had tunnel vision because I was around negative people back here in Durham, and some people were so brazen in saying, "Oh, you'll be back," or "You won't be able to do this." And as much as I disagreed with them, you know, I'm still human. I can still be sensitive. I can still hurt my feelings. I just had to get my blinkers on and go, "This is for me. This is for nobody else. This is for me." I have to gamble on myself, and I had to just jump in, and that's what I did. Just jump in and didn't ask anyone for permission. Didn't ask anyone for their opinion. You know, people still give me them still, but I was like, no, okay, thanks. This is what I'm doing. People try to emotionally blackmail me. Or what about your family? No, that's yours. Like you're transferring. I've got my double vision on. I'm out of here, and this is about me.
That's interesting, because I think a lot of successful people say a similar thing, whereby you have to have a short period of time where you are tunnel vision, where you are focused on what it is you want. But how do you balance that feeling between I need to achieve what I want, but at the same time, there's a small part of me that feels a little bit selfish because I'm neglecting other people. But then, is this the right thing? Is it not? How far have I taken it? Do you see what I mean? That internal fight.
I know, it's a great question. I know exactly what you mean, because it's something that I think about a lot, because you know, you can go the other extreme with your tunnel vision and become heartless and narcissistic and not care about other people outside you and your story, and that's not the right way to be. That's not cool. I think you just have to ground yourself. You have to be honest with yourself. I think you mentioned intuition earlier, and I think when you've gone too far, and you have to pull it back a bit, you know, and you just have to call yourself out a little bit and check yourself in when you are doing that, and don't lie to yourself and say, "Oh no, I'm doing this for me." And you can't always do that, especially if you want good relationships with people. You have to give and take. And I think that the answer we all know, but we choose to ignore it. I'm a big believer in intuition myself, and I think we just don't always listen to it.
If someone is feeling a little bit confused in terms of listening to their own intuition in regards to what they want, there's some people listening, they struggle to know exactly what it is they want. How would you reconcile with that and get grounded again, so you actually become clearer with what you want?
I would advise them to really cut down on, if not totally cut out, advice. People ask for advice quite a lot, and they don't know where the person's coming from that they're asking advice from. So, for example, if someone had relationship problems, if they're going to someone who recently had a bitter breakup, they might give them very negative feedback, and then it's transference based upon their experience. And yeah, I would say cut down on the advice. That's my number one advice for that, is to just, listen to yourself and stop asking everyone what you should do.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, because I think it's easy to get caught up in other people's relying on other people's opinions and their perspective, because they can only talk from their own experience. So you need to be careful to take in whose opinion am I allowing into my mind, and where are they coming from in their life. Like if I was asking for advice from someone who's traveled, I'm not going to ask someone who's never been out of this country before. I'm going to ask someone like you, who's gone around the world, had a bit of experience, and knows what they're talking about. So you have to just be careful, who you're asking.
Well, funnily enough, everyone who told me that I would never make money online had never tried to make money online, but they're all experts about that apparently. So
exactly. Yeah, I think you have to just find out through your own experience, right? That makes the most sense. So just going into the nuts and bolts of it a little bit for those who are interested to pursue something similar to yourself, has the way that you made money back in 2011, 2012 changed to the way that you make your income now?
A little bit, yes, because the way that I was making money, the sole way that I was making money then, Google did not like that form of advertising, because it was in direct competition with the AdSense, and people with more money could get higher in the search engines. So I had to be a bit more creative with things like that. And a lot of my income now is from, I still do a bit of that, but a lot of the money is from providing content before, when I said I was writing articles for, lost my trail of thought. So, I was writing articles for $10, for 500 words, things like that. I connect people who are looking for jobs. So people who are in a similar position to myself, and they just want to get started. And a lot of these people are living in places like Chiang Mai or Mexico or East Europe. Kind of like the middlemen for them as well. But I still do the advertising as well, because I'm not going to stop doing it just because Google don't like it. But I don't do that on Man versus Clock.
Advertising, do you mean in terms of you have other websites that are focused on a certain niche and then you monetize through the adverts you put on there?
Yeah, and they're also travel. Yeah.
Okay, sure. And then so the way that you make money from them, I presume, is because you've made them rank to a page one on Google. Is that the essence of it?
Not on page one for Google for every single article, but for some articles, yes, and advertisers will pay for that.
I see. So you're basically getting paid to get the traffic, as much traffic as possible to the ads, and the way that you do it is through trying to rank the particular article on page one.
It's not as complicated as that, really. It's just if the website has certain statistics, advertisers will pay to advertise on that website.
Okay, sure. And then for those who are involved in SEO or thinking to build that up, how would they, just to briefly cover, how would they go about setting something like that up? Like, say, for example, take me, for example, I haven't got any articles out there at the moment. How would you advise someone to then go about and start that process of making it happen for themselves?
There's no easy way, mate. You have to just do what I did with Man versus Clock from the beginning and write your heart out, and hopefully that gets on the radar and that starts building up progressively over time. There's no quick way, really. I try to do the quick way of a football site, actually. I bought a football site that I made a big loss on, and I tried to do it the cheap way, and I lost a lot of money on that. And so you just gotta.
There's no shortcuts, is there?
Yeah. Sorry to be the bad news. You just gotta roll your sleeves up and get busy. Yeah.
That's the thing. I think that's what most people are afraid of, because they think, oh, it's going to take too long, so I'm not going to bother to start. But the thing is, it's always going to take too long. The longer you wait, the longer it's going to take. Like once you start, then the clock starts ticking to the day that you actually can make those choices to attain freedom or whatever it is you're trying to attain. So essentially, so you've got Man versus Clock, and there's multiple articles on there that advertisers are paying for, rather than separate websites, if you see what I mean.
That's right, yeah. And there's affiliate advertising as well. but I don't hit that as hard as I should, to be honest. Like I said, I should blog more than I do, but I'm too busy having fun at the minute to do that. I know that sounds really, I don't mean it to sound arrogant, but I know that I should be blogging, but I'm too busy traveling to these countries where I'm going to find information about them, and then I do the catch up. So yeah, I do still advertise on there, and I also have affiliate advertising, but I don't advertise as aggressively on there like I did in 2012. Did you ask? Sorry. Did you say 2012? Yeah, 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't do that now, because if I did that now, with how Google feel about that, I would be kicked out of the search engines.
You'd be completely wiped out, because I've heard stories of that happening to people because of the black hat methods they use. Is they'll pick it up quickly because there's too many links flowing through too fast, or whatever it might be, like all of these things that you've got to take into consideration.
That's what I was hinting towards with the football side, the shady tactics.
Push like 100 backlinks in one day. What? This is not realistic.
Yeah, well, you know what? If karma does exist, it's come back, because I'm selling that at a loss. I'm selling that quite a big loss. So, but it was a learning curve.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think it's just patience, isn't it? It's mixed with a lot of patience. That's the main thing. So just to get into a bit more about your experience, because I know you've done some crazy stuff. Like you've gone to a number of countries that we haven't heard of, or that you haven't heard of, and things like volcano boarding, was it? I have no idea.
Nicaragua, that was, but that was the one that blew up recently.
Really?
That actually erupted recently. So you can't do that anymore. You can't.
Oh, wow.
Do that over there because it erupted. Yeah, it was awful. Wow.
That's crazy. Yeah. So what actually was that when you were doing that? What's the actual activity?
It's cool. It's really fun, and especially and funny because I've got terrible coordination. So I was like, I think I actually stayed on until the end. That was quite rare for me. It's a bit like sandboarding. So you climb this volcano. So it's ash material. So it's very slippy, and you take these. I guess they're like snowboards, and you attach them to your feet, and you go down full speed. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that sounds fun. Yeah, I can imagine.
And I did that with my best mate. So you're talking about sharing experiences, and my best mate was on the beginning of his journey, because my best mate copied me and left and thought, screw it. He's from Durham as well. Now he lives in Mexico City, and he was at his, the beautiful romantic honeymoon period part. I kind of miss. It's going to sound weird. I miss the struggle a little bit, just because it's just beautiful and romantic, and you're all starry-eyed. Everything's new, and we traveled through Central America together. Pretty much, I think it was every country in Central America, and I got to do that with him, so that was cool.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. So is he just on a little side note? Is he like a fully fledged blogger and traveler like yourself now? He's
freelance writing at the minute, so what I was doing, but on a larger scale, and supporting himself in Mexico City from doing that. And he had no experience doing that, so there's more inspiration for your listeners who think that you need to know people and have some kind of documents or some letters to your name. You don't. You just have to get busy and take a risk on yourself.
That's exactly. You're right. That's it. So, what's one of the most memorable experiences you've had so far?
Ooh, the most memorable. Oh, wow. You know what? I got quite emotional at the Taj Mahal. I got a little emotional. Yeah. And I've recently been looking into mindfulness because I'm quite a high energy person. He says with the coffee, maybe not a good idea. I'm quite a high energy person, and I'm always thinking too far ahead, and I'm always...
Sorry to butt in, that's exactly like me. I say that, and I have a cup of coffee in my hand as well.
I'm not quitting the coffee, not yet anyway. Um, yeah, so you know how it is. You do you read about mindfulness yourself?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I try and meditate even for 5 minutes every day just to
Me
ground
too.
myself again before I go back to bed and restart at 100 miles an hour. So,
I'm like a Springer Spaniel, mate. I've got too much energy. Even before speaking to you on here, I was like, you can't be your usual self and talking too much. But I think I have. But a lot of it's nerves because it's my podcast virginity. So, um, so a little bit nervous about doing this. Yeah, so a lot of those mindfulness courses, they talk about living in the past. Now, I don't do that. I leave the past behind, but I'm always in the future too much. And so I've been really looking into the mindfulness thing. I really like Eckhart Tolle, Power of Now. I really like that guy. And I was quite grounded for me and living in the moment. And I'm not an architect guy by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not someone who gets excited by buildings. But the Taj Mahal is really beautiful. I know we always hear that. We can see it on Google Images. But when I saw it, and uh, it was like um, maybe like 5 o'clock in the morning, so just as the sun was coming up. It was the first time that I saw it. I was like, wow, this is absolutely spectacular. I'm so lucky to be here. I'm so lucky to have this experience um, to where I was, to where I am now. And I was really taken away by it, got a little bit emotional. And so you asked that question, what's the most memorable? Um, there are many of them, but because that's quite raw, it was recent. That's the one that I usually where my mind goes to when I'm asked questions like that.
yeah. And what was it that you think set you off feeling those emotions? Because you must have seen different, like a skyline, some other part of the world, or some other memorable building or statue or something along those lines. But it doesn't seem like that set off the same emotions as the Taj Mahal. And you've never been to the Taj Mahal, I presume, before this. So what
No,
do you think it was that set off that sort of feeling?
I think it was gratitude. I really despise people, ungrateful people. I don't like that's one of the worst things you can be, and I try to be grateful all the time. And I but even me saying that, it's very easy for me to get lost in my ego if I had a few bad nights sleep and oh, I have to get this train from here to there. Then my better self would say, hold on, you're traveling the world. Boo hoo, get your violins out. Be grateful be grateful you have to wake up early and get on these trains and you don't know where the hell you're going and the taxi driver's trying to get triple the money from you. Just be grateful that you're there and you're experiencing that. So I was really into that mindful jazz at the time and really locked into it. So I think it was gratitude that made me feel those feelings. Yeah.
Definitely. I think gratitude allows us to just all come back to having the right sort of perspective, because it's easy to get caught up in the situation at hand, whatever problem we're facing at the time or
Yeah.
circumstance we find ourselves in. It's easy to get lost in that. So I
No,
always I always like to just remind myself that bring myself back. What am I grateful for? There's always something you can be grateful for, regardless of where you are. The fact that you're alive, the fact that you're human, like that's not even that I think that I read somewhere it's like 1 in 400 trillion possibility that you are even you. So just that simple fact always brings me back to like I may not be where I want to be in life right now, but
yeah,
I'm still able to pursue the dream. I'm still able to chase and make it happen every day because I'm breathing for another day. So
absolutely.
yeah, I mean, so just looking at all of the places you've gone now and all the experiences you've had, is there anything that you still yet to do? Anything you haven't done?
There's always more, mate. There's always more that you like. If you type A personality, there's always more that you want to do. A friend recently talked me into. It didn't take much talking into, to be honest. The seven summits, so the highest mountain and in every continent. I've done one. That was last month, Mount Elbrus of Russia, and we're going to tackle Aconcagua, which is the tallest mountain in South America. It's in Argentina. going to tackle that in December. So I want to do that. I would also like to visit every country in the world, but I don't think I'm going to rush that. I don't want to rush that. Just try and country tick. I have been seduced into doing that before at the start of my trip, and I don't really want to do that. So I would like to do both those things, which are obviously quite big, quite hard. But I'm always thinking about things that I would like to do, small things as well. You know, I can't swim. 35-year-old man, I can't swim. I'd like to learn how to swim, and I would like to learn how to cook. I'm not a very good cook. I can cook maybe 3 dishes, but that's a bit lame, I think. I think I should have more up my sleeve than that. So yeah, there's always more that I want to do, mate. There's always more that I feel like I'm not doing enough of, and that's where I need those mindfulness moments and need to meditate and bring myself back down to earth, because I can just run away with my mind if I don't.
Well, yeah, I think it's easy to get caught up in that, especially if you've got like experiences at your fingertips that you can get involved in. So it's easy to just get caught up in that rush and forget that you've got the chance to actually even immerse yourself in that. Not everyone does have that chance. So now that you are where you are in your particular journey, has your relationship with friends or family back home changed compared to the way it was? And is that in a good or bad way?
You're too good at your job. You should have warned me about how good you were at your job and how difficult and brilliant your questions are going to be. It has changed, yes, and I would say more in a negative way, to be honest. Yeah, I would say more in a negative way. I think it's harder to connect with people, and I do try, and you know, I'm from a working class place. You know, I was raised working class, and a lot of the mentality for working class is victim mentality, and you know, there's always someone's always doing something to them. They don't have any personal accountability. Going to get myself in trouble saying this. Not all my family, not all my friends. There's my disclaimer, but it's big. It's big, and I don't think it's very healthy. And that's the exact kind of environment that I wanted to leave. So when I come back with my my beliefs of, you know, there's always more you can do. I'm probably not as hopeful as others are that some politician's going to come and save me, like a lot of people think. So that's quite a controversial stance to have here. That, you know, you need personal accountability. This guy or this woman's not going to save you. They don't care about you as much as you care about them. You probably worked out by talking to me, I am quite honest about how I feel about that stuff. I don't sit to hurt people's feelings or get people's backs up, but the conversation always comes up, and I'm not going to lie to someone about how I feel about that. So that gets a bit confrontational, would you say, or maybe uncomfortable, awkward, for sure. People don't like me talking like that. But to be honest, I spoke like that before I left as well. I was like, no one's going to save me. I'm out of here. I'm going to save myself. And then those who did try and keep in contact with me, because I find a lot of people talk about who I used to be, like, oh, well, you used to believe in this, you used to say that. They kind of use that against me, which is a bit unfair, because everyone's changing, everyone's evolving, everyone's got the right to have different beliefs as they get older and have new experiences. But the positive is those who reciprocated, trying to keep in contact, friends and family, those that did that, we have a better relationship than we ever did. So to end on a positive, you know, the majority of people, I would say it hasn't went too well with, but those who I'm tight with and who we've both put equal effort in to get to know who each other is as they're evolving through life, that's tighter than ever. So I mentioned my best mate earlier on, who's living in Mexico City. We disagree on a hell of a lot of things, and we also agree on a lot of things as well. And we've changed a lot over the years, but we are probably tighter now than we ever have been because we've locked into that, and we are aware that mindsets are changing. That's fine. Rambled on a bit there, mate. Sorry.
No, I appreciate the in-depth answer because it gives people an insight in terms of what you're feeling and the journey you're going through. Because this is the part that people don't see. They see the photos of you traveling, and not just you, anyone who's going through something similar. Photos of you traveling, enjoying yourself, making money, having that freedom. And you know, the first thing they're thinking is, I want to get out. I want to get rid of this pain, which is I'm stuck in a cubicle.
Yeah.
Fine. Okay. And it's going to involve hard work. I accept that. But then they don't realize you're not going to, the pain of you being in a cubicle just translates into a different sort of pain later on. Like you're not going to be in a cubicle. You'll be traveling somewhere in the far east coast of Asia. But then you've got an issue with, maybe it could be your health, or it could be family relationships. Like there's always going to be something to struggle with. And I think that there's not enough of a light shone on that side. Because every level, I read this quote somewhere, every level has a new devil, right? So you never had this issue before because you're still in this country. So people felt secure. They felt like he's still here. He hasn't done it. So I don't feel bad about my job, or I don't feel bad about where I am. Now he's gone. He's gone to 50, 60, 70 countries. Now I feel bad because I haven't traveled and he's making me look like shit. So that's almost the feeling that they probably get when you come back.
Yeah, and I don't do that. I really try not to make people feel like that. Or I'm always taking an interest in people's life as well. You know, some people have families. I don't have a family and things like that. I always like to take an interest in things like that. So it's a shame if people do feel like that, because I really try not to push that.
I guess it makes it hard to connect if they're not willing to connect, right? I guess.
That's right.
Yeah. So no, it's all a journey. You just have to learn and adjust along the way, because you learn new things every chapter.
You've got me into trouble. I might not get out of Durham now.
Yeah. But yeah, no, just to wrap this up, I always end with sort of 3 questions that I ask everyone. So get yourself ready.
Coffee. Oh God.
Yeah. So with everything that you've gone through now, if you were to look back at your 18-year-old self, is there anything that you would say to him different to what you're doing now?
Oh God, that's such a good question. 18-year-old self. Can I say dick? I was a dick at 18. Honestly, I was an idiot at 18. So where do I even start? I would tell my 18-year-old self that you don't know everything, because at that age, testosterone's kicking about. You think you know everything, and you just want to take on the world. Be open to learning more, and drop the ego, because the ego is huge, especially at that age, 18 years old. The ego is absolutely massive, and take a risk on yourself. Like I said before, you got to take a risk on yourself, because I had a lot of false confidence back then. You know, I was the joker, the class clown kind of thing. I'd make people laugh, but I didn't have real confidence. So if I tried to do what I did, leaving as a 28-year-old man, I would have failed at the first hurdle, because it was all ego, and I probably didn't believe in myself as much as I led people to believe.
It's interesting, because I think every person has that experience of going to school and having a class clown in the room, and you always think, including me, I always thought that, oh, you know, he's got so much more confidence. Like, how is he able to be so forthcoming and outgoing and things of that nature? And then I realized afterwards, you know, everyone has their own distinct character, and he's probably projecting his own insecurities out through that sort of behavior, you know.
So true. I had When I was the class clown, even younger at school, which I was a very naughty boy at school. I didn't apply myself at all, which I'm not proud of, and I don't glamorize. I don't think that's a cool way to be. And when younger family members, lads, hear my story of what I was like, they laugh, and a family member might unintentionally glamorize it. Oh, and you said this to the teacher, you did that, and I'm just embarrassed because I don't think that's a good way to be. I don't think the youth of now should be like that. I don't think it's nice to teachers who are trying to live their life and get through their day. You don't know what they're going through, and you're abusing teachers. It's really awful way to be, actually. So if I did see my 18-year-old self, I'd probably slap him, to be honest.
But yeah, so the second question is, if you could write anything on a piece of paper, and it was put into a time capsule for generations from now to read, what would you write to them?
In the time for generations. Oh my God. This is just what I was dreading. So they're reading this in the future, yeah?
In the future, yeah. Could be just a sentence or a point that you'd like them to read. Anything.
Never make a tough decision on an empty stomach.
That's very true. I find that to be the case as well. You need to make sure. I actually heard. Have you heard of Grant Cardone?
I haven't met, no.
Grant, yeah, so he's like one of the top salesmen and in America, and he's got like a whole sales training course and stuff like that. And he's well on his way to making billions in his company, and his wife does a similar sort of thing where she provides like advice on relationships for successful couples and things of that nature. And one of the funny things she said was, whenever we have an argument at home, behind the scenes, I always make sure everyone's fed first, and then we can talk about the issue, because there's less room for people to get emotional or really dramatic. So I think I think it's good advice. Whenever you're making a decision, just don't make sure all of your emotions are in check first before you jump into it.
I'm very irrational when I'm hungry. Yesterday I was hungry, but I had a to-do list and I wanted to finish the to-do list before I went out for food. And I almost booked a flight to Switzerland because because I'm training for the Great North Run, which is a half marathon in Newcastle, half marathon. And it's high altitude. I found a skiing village called St. Moritz in Switzerland, which is high altitude, highest in Europe to run. I was like, right, I'm sick of Durham. I'm going. I was like, really rational. I'm going to book it. I was on Airbnb looking at rooms, almost about to book it. And then I was like, I just got too stressed because I was hungry and I was trying to do this. Then I want to get some food. And as I got the food, I was thinking, I can't leave the UK because I'm going to Baghdad next month. And I have to be here and wait for my letter of invitation for the Iraq embassy and then go to Manchester with my passport. I'm not actually allowed to leave the country until that happens. I was like, right, I'm going to Switzerland. Screw this. And I didn't even make that connection that I had to wait in the UK because of the Iraq embassy.
It's crazy though, because a person who's living an ordinary life that wants to train for a marathon or a run, they wouldn't usually think to that extent in terms of, right, I need to train. Where's a similar sort of terrain? Okay, there's a similar training. Switzerland, let's go and train over there. Because I think your scope of thinking is minimized or limited by the amount of money you have, because you think it's not possible, and your mindset, I guess, as well. So do you think that's greatly expanded because of the fact that you've now unlocked the time element?
Yeah, because I have freedom now. I'm less interested in the money side when I talk about freedom. Money does equal freedom, but the experiences that I can have because of the lifestyle that I currently have, which I also don't take for granted, because that that could that could disappear overnight as well. Um, Having more options is more of a beautiful thing, but you can definitely confuse yourself if you have too many options as well.
Yeah, for sure. So just to wrap up with the final question, if you're 90 years old after you've lived this long amazing life, you're
Yeah.
looking back at your life, just reflecting on everything that's happened, what's the legacy you hope to leave behind?
Oh wow. I hope that people who are in my life, like my close knit people, because I'm not a friend collector. Like I'm quite strict when it comes to friends and you know lovers, family, like, who I keep close to me. I hope that they feel better when they've left me. I hope that I make them feel good about themselves. I hope they feel a positive thing when they leave me. I hope they feel inspired or happy or loved, or that I'm a good person to be around. I'd like them to say that about me, and I hope I'm doing a good job of that.
Definitely, that's a beautiful thing, and I think you're well on your way to making that happen. Just because of the fact that you're in a position where you can inspire, because you're walking, you're walking your talk through the
Yeah.
experiences you've been through. So, no, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you taking the
Thanks for
time.
having me. I can relax now.
Yeah. So just yeah, I was just going to say the final thing. Where if people want to learn about your journey and sort of follow your journey from now on, where's the best place for them to find you?
Well, I'm going to start blogging again because now I'm grounded and I'm not traveling around for a while now. There's my website manversusclub.com. You can also find me on my Facebook fan page, which is also Man versus Clock. I don't have access to the username Man versus Clock for Instagram, so you just lose the S for that as Man V Clock, Man V Clock, and I'm gonna, because I'm quite nervous on camera and video, I'm gonna start doing Insta lives and things like that. Thank you for inviting me, by the way, to get out of my comfort zone to do this. I'm going to start doing things like that, and I'm going to start answering people's questions. I don't want it to be one dimensional. Hey, look me, look what I'm doing. And the biggest takeaway from this, mate, is yeah, you don't need to have like a rich background or anything to do what I do. You really don't.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and no, thank you so much for being here. Definitely gonna, we should definitely do this again, maybe a year from now, and see, what other parts of the world you've conquered.
Yeah. Good luck with everything
Okay,
that you're doing, mate.
thank you.